we're going to call to order our committee meeting today for the Education, Environment, Sustainability. It's Wednesday, July 2nd.
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Simon.
Here.
Mr. Schlepper.
Here.
Mr. Hauser. Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent at the moment. Mr. Miller.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no one is signed in.
Okay, so we have minutes from June 18th. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have several items referred to committee. The first one is 2025-0205. Can we have that read for the record?
Resolution number 2025-0205, awarding a total sum not to exceed $10,000 to the Cleveland Heights Tigers Youth Sports Association for the Cleveland Heights Tigers Youth Empowerment Through Sports Initiative from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
And who is here today to speak to this? Can you come on up to the podium and introduce yourself, please?
I am Timothy Gorm. This is Mr. Giles Foster. We are co-directors of the Cleveland Heights Youth Sports Association. We're here to give you our proposal on why we need your help with our youth and our mission. All right. So this is something we've been preaching to the kids. We are the current flag football champions for the city. And this is what we preach to our kids our first day. We wanted them to know the Apex Tiger, which Tigers is our motto. Apex Tiger has no one on the food chain that's searching for them. We are what they call an apex predator, meaning things that they may encounter during the day is not something that should destroy them, because it was not meant to destroy them, because that was not the goal. So any obstacle they face, they should be able to overcome, because we are at the top of the food chain. This is what our goal was when we took over. We want to restore Tiger pride in the community. We've done that with, we've reached out to the high schools, the middle schools. We set up a pipeline where they'll go from our youth program straight into the school systems programs with middle school. We cut our ages down to start from 5 to 11 instead of 5 to 13, because we want to encourage them to have the academics and be a part of the school program when they're of age. Our community involvement, we've done several community events. We've cleaned up streets. We're currently working with the fire department to paint the fire hydrants in the neighborhood, and on school properties, we're going to be able to paint them school colors. We've invested in futures by partnering with several mental health companies, as well as adding after-school tutoring and things of that nature to make sure our kids are getting the proper scholastic achievements we add as well, and providing quality programs. I mentioned we partner with To Attain Healing and Growth and Empowerment, which are behavioral health companies, because a lot of our youth were suffering from things such as ADHD, focus, and anger management. We want to create, our mission is basically to serve our community. The vision and standards set forth on the Cleveland Heights page. Cleveland Heights is one of the most diverse cities in the city of Cleveland. We deal with all different types of cultures coming to us, and we want to make sure we have a welcoming place there. Building and qualified staff. Most of our staff are community homeowners, to where they're coming from the community. We make sure that we familiarize ourselves with the kids. We're getting a lot of referrals. We went from 40 kids when we took over to now we have 160 on our roll, and that's just football. We have another 75 cheerleaders. And we've been able to link our kids with several different programs in the area. We just had 21 kids attend the Miles Garrett camp at our high school, to which 2 of our kids were named as some of the MVP athletes of the day. We have our kids walking around the neighborhood cleaning up with their jerseys on, so our community can see that we are trying to be a positive influence in the community. like I said, these are some of our goals. I'm just clicking through. We want to create the excitement, the buzz about our kids and in our community. We have several community partners that are willing to let us come to their places of business and help us out with certain things. We've created social media pages where till now we have about 1,000 followers that are in the community. We're putting together now a first responders game where we're going to do for the community where the police will take a team and the firefighters will take a team. Our 8U and our 10U were both in the championship games. Actually, both our 8U teams won the championship. They played each other, so we split the trophy. And our 10U team was in the championship. So we're going to split those teams, one with the firemen, one with the police officers, where they'll be the quarterbacks and our kids will run routes. And we'll just do just something to have for the community to let them know we're around. Our coaches have attended several coaching clinics to make sure we're giving kids proper technique to minimize injuries, things of that nature. We're doing position-based instruction like they do at the high school so the kids get used to what a structured practice looks like. Our strength and conditioning has upgraded to where we actually have several different programs that have been licensed across different sports for us to do. We have unified program goals. Before it's a couple different teams in our area, but we aligned all our goals together to what the school is trying to perform, and we've also had the high school coaches come in and run a session with our kids so they have something to aspire to. And this is like, I like to be visual with the kids. The kids, all of us have watched Aladdin, so it's one of my favorite movies, sorry. But we, we have scenes and things like this nature. We always give kids quotes. We give them daily affirmations. These are things we do community and homework checks. We're in the schools. The principals know us. The superintendent knows us now. We are making ourselves a pillar in the community so we can put out the young people that we want to take over when we're too old to do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Excellent. Any questions or comments from the committee? Councilman Hauser and then Councilman Schlepper.
I just wanted to, through the chair to the speakers, just want to thank you guys for all the work you're doing with the youth, with the kids, and I also want to publicly thank Councilwoman Conwell for investing in the youth in Cleveland Heights. We look forward to partnering with you, and please keep us updated on what you guys are doing.
Yes, sir.
I just had a comment. Thank you so much for what you do, for coming here today and speaking to us. The educator in me really wants to look at the data of some of these things. And what I love about this statistic is, so there have been dozens and dozens of studies that show us that early community engagement programs like this are the #1 component of student success throughout their life. The #1 component. So the work that you're doing is allowing these students to be engaged in their community, but it's also setting them up for success in other capacities in their life. So in my mind, that's actually pretty life-saving work. So thank you for what you do, and we're excited to support you.
We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate the work in my neighboring community. So I'm going to ask for a motion to move this out of committee to the next full council meeting for second reading.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So this is going to be read 3 times, so it will eventually find its way to the council as a whole in what date?
July 22nd.
Really? Okay, July 22nd. Be here before you know it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
Thanks. You don't have to come back unless you want to for that meeting. Okay, all right, next item on this agenda is 2025-0225.
Resolution number 2025-0225, granting project feasibility approval of the Euclid Co-Developed Microgrid Project.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman. Mike Foley from Department of Public Works, our Public Utility Division, Kuiper Green Energy. Valerie Katz, who's our Deputy Administrator, and Rick Bolton, who's with Compass Energy Platform, who is working on these projects with us.
Okay.
And we have a substitute. So should I talk about that first? Yeah,
Sure, we'll get that out of the way.
So, as you may know, there's a lot of stuff happening at the federal level, especially around tax credits and being able to use them. We have a contract with Compass Energy Platform now that runs 10 years. Part of that is that they can develop the Euclid microgrid project, which we're going to talk about in a second. But they've also got rights to help us with behind-the-meter distributed energy, basically solar projects and other facets of work that the utility has. And so the substitute just makes it clear that as we're moving forward, that we can take advantage of their ability to procure quickly renewable energy resources off of platforms that they have in order to move some of these projects. We've got some behind-the-meter projects and maybe in Brooklyn, out by the sewer district, out with Metro Health. And so to be able to, it's just explicitly be able to say that we can use the procurement that we've had with them in order to take advantage of their abilities to procure power, solar power quickly.
As to the substitute, so what we're doing is adding another source of funding to this ordinance from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency grant, the Grid Development Office. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, so we're taking advantage of the CPRG EPA grant that we received. So the money will be coming from that source of
So we're
resources.
adding that to
Yes.
this ordinance. I think I see a typo in here, but go ahead. If we go to, I guess we should look at it now since we're reviewing it. The second page that there's a line drawn under the second whereas. It says, there's a line drawn through the climate pollution reduction grant. Do you see that?
Right. And it's,
But where should the period be? Take a look at that paragraph, just so we can, I think it's more technical.
I think it's $10 million from the CPRG and semicolon and. Right.
It doesn't read right.
It doesn't read right.
You're
It
correct.
doesn't read right. So I don't know if you want to
Oh,
come
I
back.
see.
Do you see that, clerk, Madam Clerk?
Can we fix that later?
I just want to point out that when we approve it, that I just need to know what it's supposed to say, because if we're going to approve a substitute, we need to exactly say, at least for the record, what it's supposed to say. The law directors, do you want to come up and just tell us how this should read, and we can,
Yeah, hi, Greg Guth with the Law Department. That whereas clause, it's the second one on the second page.
Yep.
It would end after it's going to go from the CPRG, because what I did was move all of this language basically into the whereas above it, the inserted whereas.
oh, so are we supposed to just have the inserted whereas and get rid of the one after it? Or
You-
there's supposed to be mirrors? Tell me what,
The first whereas clause, the bold one that's at the top of the page,
Yeah.
that defines CPRG.
yep,
And then the next one uses CPRG to identify the funding source as part of that sentence. So it's going to say the CPRG, semicolon, and then go on to the next whereas.
okay. Okay, well,
Maybe if we take all the bold and underlined out, it'll look right.
well, I have the Grid Development Office, the second whereas. I'm sorry we're doing this now, but we're going to have to approve it out of committee to substitute this. And I understand that the inserted whereas is correct, but the one after it leaves a dangling crossed
How
out
about if I read it
sentence.
to you, see if it makes sense when I read it?
You want to read
Yeah,
it?
so it says, whereas the county now desires to amend the grid grant agreement to add additional funds in the amount of $10,640,050, including $640,050 from the grant from the Grid Development Office of the U.S. Department of Energy, and $10 million from the CPRG, semicolon, and. Okay,
I'm sorry, that's what I thought, but we just needed to be clear. And so we just add from the CPRG. Okay.
right.
Okay, everybody. And then,
Excuse me, Madam Chair, that's
Yes.
a technical correction. We can
yeah,
make that.
yeah, that's fine. Okay, so other than that, we're adding that and adding on the third page, Mr. Director, former Director Foley, are you? Or Greg. So just tell me what we're adding here, just the
The-
purpose of what they're going to be doing with the money.
We wanted to mirror this, do two things here. We're mirroring the language that's in the grant for what the grant money can be used for, but that we're doing it under the energy management agreement that we have with Compass
Okay.
Energy Platform.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. So at this point, if everybody understands what we're doing, I'm going to make just let the record reflect that Councilman Purnell Jones is here. Do you have a question?
Madam Chair, yes, if I could, just a little microgrid 101, because I know we've been doing this over the years, but, and help me too. Obviously, when I think of microgrid, it's just some localized area of utility services.
Councilman,
Right?
wait,
Help me to,
Councilman Jones, we just have a technical substitute, and then you can ask that question, because I just want to get this off our desk. This is a substitute that I just need a motion to approve the substitute.
well, I'll make them,
I'll offer that.
Go ahead, Council President, please.
I move that we accept the substitute.
Okay,
second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, so we're working with the document with a substitute grant source ultimately to add it to the master contract. So if this is a good time for you, Mr. Foley, Councilman Jones has a question.
We're at the feasibility stage, right? We have not yet done anything. This is feasibility stage. Is that correct?
We're past feasibility, we're pre-construction, so the council is giving us approval to move forward on the Euclid project because we've got to this, we've done this preliminary feasibility work, and now to get to this next stage to do more in-depth engineering and do construction, we need council to approve the project, and to
Okay.
approve that.
And obviously a refresher for me, but obviously we have new colleagues too, so I'd appreciate just a quick 101. There's a region of area that the microgrid services, is that correct? We certainly have our utility companies, but this is for lack of a better term, a supplemental for a targeted area, right?
And I'll show you a
What is
map
that
real quick.
area?
And- So can you see on your screen? Okay. So this is Euclid. This is the Euclid microgrid project we're talking about. And we will still be connected to the larger transmission grid. There's this national transmission grid that exists, right? The county will be the distribution level utility for these customers. So we're going to run underground distribution lines. We'll have our own substation that taps into the transmission grid. We're going to have a whole bunch of solar power, and we'll have some natural gas gen sets. So when the larger grid goes down, which it unfortunately frequently does anymore, we'll be able to keep power up for those customers, these first initial customers that are manufacturing customers in the city of Euclid right now. So we'll be able to keep it up, and it'll be greener, cleaner power, and we think it'll be just as affordable as what they're paying for right now in terms of their prices.
Protect them from stoppages in service. How big is that target area, service area?
It's right now it's 6 locations. One location has about 4 different manufacturers inside of it, the IRG site. So it's maybe 10 different customers. And it's probably about, I don't know, 1.5 miles square each way, roughly. And it has between 12 and 15 megawatts worth of load that is associated with that. So it's a large electric user in the city of Euclid.
Do we make revenue from this, or is this not a?
Yep, we've got a presentation. Do you care if we walk through it? Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought I may have missed some of it.
No, you're good. So I just want to go back and start off real quick. So just the step we're asking you to do is we have a current contract with Compass Energy Platform. We're amending that contract now. Our contract is a 10-year contract, and one of the things they have the right to do is to develop this microgrid in Euclid. And we have a series of steps that we had to get through in order to get your permission to move forward on the first project. And so we've met kind of these milestones under that contract. So we're asking to get permission to move forward with the Euclid project. We've asked for the substitution, which you've already agreed to. We currently have an earmark from, Senator Brown gave us a $1.5 million earmark. So out of that, to get to this stage, we've used about $60,000 to $70,000 of that. This will free up using the rest of that money to do more in-depth engineering for getting from this preliminary stage to the real nuts and bolts engineering. So that this, your approval will allow that second phase of money to start flowing down. And then the other thing is that we're going to at least put aside $10 million of this CPRG. We won this $130 million award from the EPA for renewable energy projects. And some of that solar is going to go to the city of Euclid, to this energy project in Euclid. Some of it, as I said, will go to some other sites that we're working with in the county. So potentially the sewer district, potentially Metro Health, potentially a project that we're doing in Brooklyn. So we're giving, because of the tax credit issues that are at the federal level, these projects rely on EPA money, but they also rely on some tax credit dollars from the IRS, basically. And the tax credit stuff has just been a nightmare over the last 6 weeks, basically, is this big, whatever the bill is that has been going through Congress. So we are, so that's what we're asking, that's what this whole kind of resolution does. Just background, we've been working on this kind of for, last 5 or 6 years. The council created the ability for us to create the utility in 2021. We've really tried to be as smart as possible about developing this. So we've hired some really smart people, like Go Sustainable Energy, who is here, Peter Worley's here, Cleveland State's Andy Thomas is in the back. Those guys have been great help. John Scory, who is used to be a First Energy executive, is really helping us think through this interaction with the transmission grid. We've got a lot of good staff on site. So we've really been working hard over the last couple years just to get to this phase. And we're there now. So the city of Euclid has given us permission to operate, so they've given us a franchise to operate, and we've got Christine McIntyre and Patrick Grogan Myers is here as well from Euclid. So we're ready to go, basically, to start this kind of next phase. Our goals around this are around, we've got, a number of them, but, sustainability, clean energy, local renewables is really important to the county, to all of us, I think. We want to increase the amount and increase the uptake of that in the grid. But reliability and resiliency are really important as well. The grid is just amazingly fragile. I mean, what happened last week? We lost power in this building for 2 or 3 days, and that's happening all over the place all the time, and not even when there's strong storms happening anymore, right? So what's happening in Euclid is, the same as happening in other places, but they've got a lot of manufacturers who use a lot of load and do a lot of stuff, and when the grid goes down, it is really affecting their ability to do business. They're having to do things like send people home. They're losing product. They have to recalibrate equipment, reset equipment, which is a pain in the neck, right? As equipment becomes smarter and more kind of internet related, the grid goes down, then it just takes a heck of a long time to get things back up and running. So this microgrid in Euclid, people are very excited about in Euclid, but also what we're seeing is that people think what we're doing nationally is kind of interesting. So there's not a lot of utilities in the country. You're just focusing on microgrids as a way to move forward. And so we think that we're at the stage now where we've developed a plan and a path forward and an operating model that will be successful. So I'm going to turn it over to Valerie and back to Rick and then back to me, but we got a little bit of a presentation. And Councilman, I hope this will answer some of your questions.
Hi, Valerie Katz, Department of Public Works. So as Mike mentioned, a microgrid kind of, when done right, kind of brings the best of both worlds. So it brings reliable power to its off-takers, and it also is a source of local renewable energy. So if you are a microgrid customer, you are still connected to the main grid, so you're still drawing energy from the main grid, but you have a local source of renewable distributed energy that's offsetting the energy that you're drawing from the main grid. So our grid today is still predominantly reliant on fossil fuel sources, predominantly coal and natural gas. So by having local renewables, we're offsetting the need to draw from that main grid. If the power goes down, the microgrid controller, which is kind of the brains of the system, will immediately disconnect the customers from the main grid. They'll still be drawing energy from their local renewable energy source, but there's also a source of backup energy, a battery, natural gas gensets that will make up for, compensate for the energy that's no longer being drawn from the grid that has gone down. So this is kind of the concept behind a microgrid. Most microgrids today serve maybe a single customer, maybe a single building, maybe a couple of buildings that are on the same property or the same campus. Our microgrid is different because we are serving multiple customers that are near each other, but not necessarily on the same campus or on adjacent properties from one another. And you already saw this picture. This is that East 122nd Street kind of industrial corridor in Euclid. And this is a picture or a map of our microgrid. You can see the different customers that we've been in conversation with. And you can see that they're all connected to one another. So those blue lines are the underground distribution lines or feeders that we will be installing to connect these customers to each other. They will be sharing resources, so they'll be sharing local distributed renewable energy, they'll be sharing the solar, they'll be sharing the backup battery generation, so we're kind of bringing an economy of scale to the project. But conveniently, the transmission line, the existing transmission line runs right through our project. So our little local distribution network will no longer be connected to the existing distribution network, but will be connected directly to the transmission grid, which is another source of more reliable power, because usually when the power goes down, it's usually because of problems with the distribution network. And because our lines will be underground, there's much less of a chance for any kind of outage. And you've seen those customers in the picture, and here's a list of the customers that we have been in long time conversation with. They're all long-standing businesses that have been around for a long time, local businesses, some of which are truly local, but some of which are more national and global, but have a local presence. We do have letters of interest from all of these customers, and the plan is to enter into a 20-year power purchase agreement with these customers in order to provide them, again, more reliable and more renewable energy. So I'll turn this over to Rick Bolton.
Hi, everybody. Rick Bolton, Compass Energy Platform. So it's appalling, but the current distribution supply is 4% renewable in Cuyahoga County right now. The utility says it's higher because they include nuclear in that number, but nuclear is not exactly renewable. So the amazing thing about this project is that we're going to boost the green energy quota up to mid-90s. We'll be buying green energy from the grid. We'll be producing green energy with the solar that's on site. It's going to be like a light year leap in sustainability, which, we're very excited about that. Yeah, that's it. That's this whole slide. Wow. Yeah, to talk about financing for a bit. So as Mike said, we've gotten a DOE grant for $1.5 million, and Compass is matching that grant. So that's one of the conditions of that grant, that we match it. And then we also have the CPRG grant as well. We have spent about $450,000 to date on the project out of our pocket. That's at our risk. And then once we get this approval, we'll be entering into the next stage of engineering, and we'll be spending another couple of $1 million to get us to construction. So that's what the approval will mean to us, is it'll release our investors will trust that we can spend the rest of this money, basically. At the end of the day, depending on how things fall out, the project will be about a $70 to a $90 million investment in Euclid, which is, something. We're really happy about that. And the other thing to recognize about this, given the modular nature of microgrids and their inherent design flexibility, we'll be able to add customers. We'll be able to expand to maybe a microgrid next door. We were hoping we're going to extend this up the street to City Hall, et cetera. So that could all happen in the future. The way that we're structuring this right now with the county, and these numbers are tentative, I think they'll be higher, but we're all just being really conservative at this stage. When at approval, the project will pay the county $50,000 to help us in the interconnection process. And then when we begin commercial operation, another $50,000. And then right now it looks like the county will get about $200,000 a year from this project. Might be more. We can't actually support the utility on the basis of one project, but this isn't obviously the only thing that we're working on. So.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate this. This is, we're trying to prove the concept, and this is the first project. And so our goal is getting this right and being able to move on to other projects as we grow and expand. As we've thought about this, so we're a county level utility is an interesting new model. And so we've really tried to think through what are the things that we as the county have to own, what are the things that we can allow a third party limited liability company that Compass will be setting up own. And so we've been meeting with attorneys and we think we've got this model that works, but basically there's things that we're going to own, including we have to own the lines, the distribution lines and the meters. We'll have to own the solar that we're providing. We will have options at the end of the day to after the 20-year power purchase agreement is over, to take over everything. So buy it for $1 type thing in year 20. The project LLC, which is the thing that will be doing a lot of the work and raising a lot of the money, will own the substation that connects to the transmission grid. They'll own some of the solar that they're purchasing and bring into the project. Batteries and gas gen sets, those are things that the project will own. And we've got land that we're looking to either lease or buy, and that will be at least initially owned by the project. Operations that, so we've got, we want to make sure that we've got things that we have to do and that the LLC has to do. So one of the things we have to do as a utility is we have to provide this access to the transmission grid. So we've got to be able to be the purchaser of power from the wholesale power off the transmission grid in order to take that power and then sell it to customers or pass it along to customers. We have to be the counterparty to that. And that whole interconnection process to the transmission grid, again, we have to be, as the utility, the counterparty to those agreements. We also have to be, as a utility, we have to provide the rights of ways to things. So we'll be able to run underground distribution lines. A private company can't do that, but a utility can. So as the utility, those are things that we'll be able, that we bring to the table. The LLC that's created will do kind of, they're going to generate local electricity. They are going to be sending bills to off-takers, collecting revenue, distributing it to who it goes out to. They'll be doing day-to-day operations. We think this is the way we've set this up in order to kind of maximally minimize the county's risk. So if there's issues with the LLC or with customers going away, the LLC is the first kind of legal hurdle that has to deal with that question. And then, just oversight, we want to make sure that we are, obviously, what is our county role in oversight? So right now we've got this kind of steering committee that meets every week, including City of Euclid, including, Go Sustainable Energy, CSU, John Scory and groups like that. So we meet consistently. We also meet internally with county partners, so development, economic development, public works, Debbie, integrated development and sustainability. So we've kind of got this internal group that just kind of keeps things flowing. But going forward, we really want to, especially we're new and we're trying to figure this out. I want to formalize some sort of agreement that we come back to this committee every once in a while, at least, maybe every 3 or 4 months, and make sure that we're just telling you what's going on. I think it's just really important that we do that. So we'll kind of organize formally some sort of oversight committee and also something that comes back to county council. So this is the timeline where we're at. I'm going to give it back to Rick again, real quick.
Yeah, I think I won't labor through all the details here since you have the slide in front of you, but just to say that we are now at the end of the second quarter. We're right on schedule. We're here asking for approval. We've got the conceptual engineering completed, and we know that the project is a realistic, feasible one. And next step is for us to do more detailed schematic engineering. We are expecting the project to go into commercial operation, if all things go well, the end of 2027. We'll see how the tariffs impact what we're doing, et cetera, but that's the plan at the moment.
So last slide, just wrap up. Again, just reiterating, we're at the stage where we're asking for approval. We've got the City of Euclid's approval. They've said, yep, you guys, we like what you're doing, go ahead. We've got customers who we've identified. We've walked through, we've got a site plan. We've kind of got this basis of design. We've got structural drawings. So we've done a lot of this kind of preliminary engineering to get to this phase. We've got this financial model that we've developed and that we think works both for the project and back for the county. And so we would request your approval to move forward on second reading suspension. Also, just in second reading suspension, especially because of this tax credit stuff, we just really want to take advantage of the moment and before the moment gets weirder and weirder. So,
Yeah, it's getting weirder as we sit here.
so any questions?
Any questions from committee members first? Council President?
So, who do we have to apply for interconnection, and what's the process?
Yeah. So there's an application that you make through ATSI, which is a First Energy company. They run they own a lot of the transmission lines on the PJM grid, which is the Eastern United States grid. And so you make the application to them. Rick has already done that. John Scory's been really helpful in making the kind of walking through what are the steps are to do that. And so once we get approval, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, then we'll make that formal application. They've said they have to do like a load study, but they think it'll take a couple months and it won't be that significant. Yeah.
I just want to mention that ATSI has actually been great to us, really terrific to work with. They've been super helpful. They've explained things in great deal to us. They've given us sort of preliminary understanding of what the load study is going to be. They've gone through all their costs. I mean, they've been amazing. They've just been responsive. I know that may be outside of many people's perception of the company, but they're very enthusiastic about the project.
And Madam Chair, Director, are there things we need from Cleveland Public Power on this project, or are they not a factor on this?
Council President, they are not a factor. We had originally thought that maybe there was a substation that we could work with them on, and that has just not panned out. So we will be building our own substation and tapping into the transmission grid ourselves.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, Councilman Schlepper.
Hi there, through the chair. Thanks again for being here. I had the pleasure of seeing a presentation by your organization just a couple weeks ago. Was very impressed. I think there were a couple things that really stood out to me. One, really the opportunity for this to be kind of a national model, right? That, doing this in the way that we would hope to do it would really be something that other regions could benefit from as well. So I think that's a really exciting piece. With that in mind, and given kind of the current landscape and climate federally, one of the things I'm curious about is how the county is insulated from risk. Mentioned that, if you could just kind of expand upon that a little bit for me.
Yeah, so money for the project, for the construction part of it, Rick's company Compass will bring into and put into a bank account. So if there's construction problems up front, then, or something goes awry, that money will be sitting in an account that we can just take advantage of. If Compass somehow goes bankrupt, then we'll have rights to step in and take the project over. If the LLC there's issues with the LLC, we'll have step-in rights to the LLC as well. So we've actually got about, we've kind of factored in 6 or 7 different kind of risk factors that could potentially happen. And in all of those, we've been able to either step in, give ourselves step-in rights, or make sure that if there's financial hits, that someone else is taking those financial hits.
Councilman Jones.
There's opportunity for other business to move into the community and join. Is that part of the attraction model as well?
Yeah, Councilman, it's right. So, let's see if I can get back to this thing. So if you look at that map that we had, there's, we've got, lines going to 6 or 7 different off-takers, customers, but there's a lot more in that area, right? And we think once we get this up and running, that there will be interest from both existing companies, manufacturers who do business there, but also there's some vacant land there, and there is some new development that may be occurring. There's a new like a refrigerated kind of warehouse that's being built in one of those sites, which is a perfect place for a microgrid to attach itself to, right? So that's the goal, is that this will be like an economic development attractor. And I just want to say this because, as climate change happens, it's going to be a lot hotter in the world, but especially in the South, right? It's going to be a lot more expensive to do business down in the South than it is in kind of the Midwest, and especially, where we've got fresh water. So this is like being able to brag about this a little bit, that we've got, microgrid districts now. Hopefully this is the first of a couple, 3, 4, 5 in the future, where we've got these districts where we're going to be able to keep power up at a reasonable cost using clean electricity, is something that we want to be able to brag about and use as an economic development attractor in a world that's just getting weirder in terms of weather, right? So stronger storms, hotter heat. You can't even get business insurance in a lot of new places in the South anymore. So,
Mike, is there a certain number of businesses that must be a part to make this viable? And what is that
Yeah, Councilman, it has to do with the load, right? So, so this one is 10 to, I think we're at the low end, it's 12 megawatts, probably at the high end, it's around 15 megawatts. So because you've got equipment you have to buy, right? Substations, distribution lines, you've got to factor that in. What is the cost of building all that stuff out, and then what is the off-taker's load, and what's the price they're willing to pay for electricity. So for us, at least this first one is kind of a sweet spot. You've both got customers that are long-term, they're well-established, they're not going to go away. They've got high load. That will help justify bringing in, doing these long-term power purchase agreements, these 10 cent, 11 cent kilowatt hour payments that they'll be making for electricity to help pay for all of the equipment that we're going to be building. So this is a great first district to start off in. And as we build, we get kind of smarter about this. Hopefully we're starting to build up a little kitty with revenue coming in. Then we start looking at other districts.
So are you saying, when I asked about the number of businesses, is it more about the cumulative load that you get from whatever the number of business that is the more relevant factor?
Yeah, I think over the next 5 years, 7 years, that's going to be kind of the factor we're looking at. Where can we build where there's a lot of load? Look, I hope, 10 years down the line, we're expanding and we're able to take on smaller businesses and smaller commercial districts and maybe even residential at some point. At least right now, this is this first district level project, and we've kind of hit a sweet spot with it, I think.
At this moment, have you signed up enough businesses or generated enough load, if that's appropriate, to reach your break-even point, if that's?
Yeah, so we've got letters of interest. We've got letters of interest. We don't have signed power purchase agreements because we can't yet until we kind of get this thing further along. But yeah, we've got enough load in Euclid and customers who are interested, who've given us all their data. I mean, it's the calculations that go into this stuff. You got to look at, how much electricity they're using in March and April and January and peak load months in the summer when it gets really hot and you have to put air conditioning on. So we've got all that kind of data that we've gotten from all these customers who are really interested in this. And they've also got real power quality issues. I mean, There are big manufacturers who are losing power consistently in Euclid. And again, they're having to send workforce home, they're losing product. One of the customers is BWXT that signed a letter of interest for us. They do big defense contract work and nuclear power. They're the nuclear power kind of supplier for the Department of the Navy, right? And so they've got this really intricate stuff that they're working on, and they're losing power frequently, and it's a real pain in the neck to them.
And my last question is, do you have a service radius or service area? Someone in Westlake could not sign up for this, right?
Not yet. No, they could not sign up for this. This will be that 1.5 mile radius right now that we're looking at. But, you know, as we hopefully grow and expand,
It's
this is the first.
expandable.
Well, this is the first microgrid district, but maybe there's a microgrid district in Westlake, maybe there's a microgrid district and, you know, wherever else we think makes sense. But this is the first one, and we want to get it right, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So originally, this committee heard about an opportunity to have a microgrid in the city of Cleveland within a radius, and they fell away, and, you know, their substations are still antiquated, and CPP is struggling with that, and we saw what happened last week with the outage that was related to that, was it not?
Yeah, I think as I understand it, there's a fire at a substation.
A fire at a substation.
right.
So if we had gone forward and Cleveland participated with the microgrid project, perhaps we would not have had this outage last week at the county. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, it depends on how it's built out, right? But that's the logical conclusion, right? Is that as we had a safer, you know, more kind of less fragile grid, and we've got more substations, more battery, more backup, that would
Yeah.
be.
So the jails suffered, the Justice Center, the County Administration Building, our Health and Human Service Departments, all were impacted for
Medical
days.
Examiner's office.
The what? Medical examiner. And that was our first, you know, look at where we could do this. So, but I am thrilled and proud to have the city of Euclid on board with a very logical, fortuitous opportunity there with that Heritage Park and all of the area with the manufacturing and opportunity there is amazing. And with the lakefront development, this is really going to be an amazing project with synergy for renewable energy. So I want to thank you. This is hard and complicated and costly on the front end. In terms of the solar farm, is that part of that's going to be on the land that is purchased? Like, where's that going to be?
So there's land over on, off of, so we've got 2 locations right now that we're in discussions with, or Rick's been talking. One is on Tungsten Avenue. I forget what used to be there, but it's vacant land now. So Weston owns it right now. So there's discussions with Weston about taking portions of it because they've got some other potential customers for that as well. But then also there's a IRG site that is where like Eaton is at, and I forget who else at Tremco. It's a big, huge site, and they've got available land that they're not utilizing, and they are right in the middle of where the microgrid, where the transmission line runs through that area, and so they've signed a letter of interest as well. So those are discussions that are happening right now, but they've been pretty positive discussions. So.
If you don't mind, I mean, this is such a major project, and we have 2 people from Euclid. I want to ask about the zoning in the city, if the codes have to shift or change to accommodate this, anything related to this project, including but not limited to the solar panels that are going to be erected on that land. Good afternoon, Patrick.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. Patrick Rogan-Myers, Director of Planning and Development for the City of Euclid. So the city is in obviously full support of this project. We don't anticipate any zoning issues. This is something consistent being an industrial district. And I just want to reiterate a conversation, a point that was shared earlier. In our business visits, we are meeting with, and these businesses represent thousands of employees in the city of Euclid. These are jobs that when you go in and you think of traditional manufacturing, you think of the stamping, you think of the dirty, the grease, the grime. These are advanced manufacturing jobs. These are jobs that require smart equipment, smart technology, and are sensitive to fluctuations in power that when you plug in a hairdryer, when you plug in a phone charger, we don't notice every day. But these are fluctuations that absolutely impact this. So this is an incredibly important project, because these are jobs that ultimately may have to be sent home with the loss of power or have to spend hours retooling a machine because of a fluctuation in power, and the machine shuts down to protect itself. So this is an incredibly important project. So to get back to your original question, Councilperson, no, we don't anticipate any zoning issues. It's consistent with the zoning being an industrial.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. So thanks so much for being here. In terms of residential, we talked about that early on as, providing renewable for some of the equity zones and areas in Euclid. I hope this is so successful that we'll be able to, expand out into the residential. But I understand this has to be right. This is, extremely important. So I want to say thank you. Do you want to introduce just, briefly who's here on the project? I know we have Christine. Do you want to raise your hand over here from Euclid? Hello. And just, we have a team here, I think, behind you.
We really have been lucky because we've got some really smart folks. So, Greg Huth from our Water
Of
Department,
course.
Jim
Hi, Greg.
DeFeo, all right? Reese Cavetti is a fellow with us from, goes to Vermont, is an engineering student, so he's here for the summer, especially helping us think through battery stuff. So there's, batteries are really interesting and complicated things. Shelby Siebert, who's with our department, with the Public Works Department. Jay Kennedy is a Department of Energy fellow, so we got someone from the Department of Energy who's embedded with us for the next year and a half again. John Scory, who's a former First Energy executive, who's really helped us out on just kind of this interaction with the transmission grid. Andy Thomas, who's in the back. Peter Worley with Go Sustainable Energy, they really helped us kind of fashion these requests for qualifications and information that we put out. And then Matt Ruby from our Public Works Department also. It's been for Valerie and I know it's been just a savior to have someone in Public Works who can help us manage and think through all the contracts and the procurement related stuff. It's just, and Matt's been wonderful doing that with us. So I think I miss anybody?
Okay.
Catherine Tkachuk, who used to be with us. So.
I know. So you're here in dual role, huh? Listen, I'm going to recommend this be passed out of committee with a recommendation of second reading suspension. But I just have a comment about what's going on at the federal level with the Senate, what they passed yesterday or this morning. There was an allocation of money, $10 billion for Mars, the planet. But then we're defunding everything related to saving this planet when we have the most beautiful, perfect, balanced oasis, and we're going to trash it, but invest in Mars when our oceans are heating up and we're losing wildlife. It's incredibly insane what humans are doing. And when I saw this thing about going to Mars, I don't mind going to Mars, but let's save this planet at the same time or first, because Mars is nothing like Earth. I don't care, so that's just my observation about that. It's tragic. So I'm happy that at this county, we have talented, willing leaders to do this, because we've got to push back someplace for the future. So I'm going to make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? I'm choked up.
Aye.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Sure.
It's not just about the planet. HHS, Obamacare, affordable health care, Metro Hospital. I can tick down every tragedy that's unfolding. Okay.
Never seen anything like this.
No, it's coming out now because everything we do at the county is being jeopardized. And I don't think we know yet the levels, how far-reaching this is going to be. So it's us here who are able at least to do something, right? But, it's like pushing against this gravity. I'm sorry I'm choked up, but, we're here for people and the earth and, a viable future, and we're watching that hacked away. Anyways, say yeah. Okay, where are we? Say yes, 2025-0229.
Resolution number 2025-0229, authorizing an amendment to a grant agreement with Say Yes Cleveland and College Now Greater Cleveland for administration and fiscal agent services for the Say Yes Cleveland program.
Okay. And Catherine's here too, but are you going to start off, Dave?
I will. Thank you very much. David Merriman, Director of Health and Human Services for Cuyahoga County. Good afternoon, council members, and also to our guests that are here. Catherine has joined us. Very grateful to the Councilwoman Simon for bringing this item forward to today's meeting. We are requesting a grant agreement of $1.6 million, which is the same amount of money that we've had in the past. I do understand we have new council members that are here, so for context, for folks that have not seen this yet, this is first a tuition scholarship that provides financial support to eligible students in public school systems and partner charter school systems in Cleveland to pursue secondary education at public and private colleges, universities, and accredited training programs. There's also school-based support services that are provided to these families, and that service is what our funding supports. So Health and Human Service dollars are used to fund family support specialists at each of the CMSD and other charter schools. And those family support specialists last year, actually I think it's right, the school year just closed, last year made over 14,000 referrals and have over 50,000 documented efforts. So we think this is working at a significant scale. I also want to point out they are partners with the Department of Children and Family Services, and there is a very special focus on making sure referral occurs between the DCFS administrative staff and Say Yes, so that a foster child or a child in custody in a school, especially high school, is connected to the Say Yes to Education program. Before I turn it over and jump into, well, actually, I'll turn it over to Say Yes to make a presentation. I just want to acknowledge, I think Catherine Tkachuk has done a great job. She stepped in as the interim leader. This was a major leadership change. And I think Say Yes did well to hire her to serve as the interim. And she has been a great partner throughout that transition. I think she's had a tough task given the changing landscape, but I think she's done a fabulous job. So with that said, I want to introduce Catherine Tkachuk from Say Yes to Education.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. Catherine Tkachuk, Interim Executive Director at Say Yes Cleveland. Thank you, David. First, I also want to thank this council for your previous support of Say Yes Cleveland. I'm going to share today some of the successes we've seen based on your support. Just to note, I started as the interim director back in March, and since that time, I've been working with the team to understand more about the impact of Say Yes Cleveland throughout our community. So you have on your desk a brief document I brought to share highlight a few items regarding the work specifically of the family support specialists as well as the scholarships there. But I want to pull a few items out there. So in looking at the data we had in 2024, 47% of our graduating seniors received referrals through Say Yes Cleveland, and nearly half of the graduates, and 25% received multiple referrals, underscoring the complex and ongoing needs that our students and families face. So those are students that we worked with to find them connection to services that they needed as they were going through their education. It's important for us to continue to work to meet those everyday needs. The top 3 referrals that we found of what we're doing is first, basic stability and support for everyday needs. That includes things like housing, clothing, and school supplies. Second, access to mental health services, which remains a growing need across our schools and is our second most referral services. And third, nutritious food, because we know children cannot be expected to learn if they're coming to school hungry. So those are the top 3 referrals. We do a number of other referrals, but those are the top 3 we found in our data. As part of our focus on measuring performance, we launched this year a district-wide principal survey to understand how we were doing, and we thought the results were strong. We still need to work and improve and grow, but for a first survey that we've done of principals, we found 76% of principals say Yes is a clear asset to the school, and 70% say having a family support specialist helps them achieve their goals in their building. And you have a quote on here from one of our principals at the bottom, but I also wanted to share another one that we received that said, "Our family support specialist is the heartbeat of this building. Students, parents, our admin team, and teachers all count on her every single day." So we just wanted a few examples of how we're seeing our principals support or appreciate the work that the family support specialists are doing in this building. We are proud of the work that we have done, but we are committed to getting better. We're making some changes this year to our school coverage model and organizational structure to ensure that we stay financially sustainable, effective, and enduring partner. I know in the past we've talked about potential federal funding through Title IV and some of those different things that didn't materialize, so we've made some adjustments to our model as a result of that. But it is important to note that every school will still be covered by a family support specialist next year. We're continuing to work with our partners on identifying ways we can better establish and share performance metrics. This will help us communicate our impact and address any challenges that arise. As part of this work, we meet regularly with the team over at DCFS to fine-tune our process and how we're working with children in DCFS that are referred to a family support specialist. So we are working on continuing to improve that partnership and engage as we can. So I thank you again for your previous support of this program and considering this continued support, but I'm happy to answer any questions that I can as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming in to help with this organization that was struggling, for sure. So any questions from any, Councilman Jones?
Catherine, good to see you.
Yeah.
And again, congratulations on the position. Diane Downing served faithfully, and I'm glad to see you here taking control of the reins. All right. I'll say this. Obviously, you have to scale down.
Mm-hmm.
You had family support specialists throughout K through 12. Is that correct
Yes.
to say? I'm not sure what your ultimate vision would be for scaling down. But I'll say this, and I'll say this about all government. There's always a measurement of output, you know, when you want to do more, the best you can to focus on outcomes, you know. And with this, to me, the outcome of what you have is the fact that you have college prepaid for every graduating Cleveland student. And the goal now, in my estimation, is to make sure as many of them graduate as possible. That's the outcome. And stabilizing the families and all that you mentioned that the family support specialists bring to the table. If we can make sure more graduate, then they're more to take advantage of those dollars. So if there's any scaling, I always say focus near that 9th through 12th grade, so that you make sure that they're the ones graduating. If you have to do any reduction, laser focus in where they can fall off the precipice and start to drop out. You know, reduce those suspensions, reduce the dropouts, all of those things. So it's great to hear the principals are very happy with what's going on. But I'd love to see those type of metrics, those type of outcomes and information. How are we, you know, keeping them in school, reducing suspensions, reducing dropouts, and increasing attendance and all of those things, and making sure they're graduating, taking advantage of what corporate Cleveland and others have done to put that money in place. I guess the last, and I don't really have a question, but a comment. I just want to say it on the air. In your own Cleveland school system, you have Ted Ginn Academy, 98% graduation rate. They have 9 family support specialists, and they've had them for years, even before Say Yes. And I think that they do such a fantastic job. They're a model. If you're looking at any change in reduction, I would not pass by walking through their facility, taking notes on what they've done and build into what you can do to increase the overall Cleveland school system graduation rate. So that's my one statement, more so than a question. Make sure you've looked into Ted Ginn Academy.
Thank you. And I will say our goal as we work through the summer is how to work on those outcome measures so that we're coming back here next year with those answers and that information for you. We're working with all of our partners on what data should we be collecting, how do we collect that. That's part of our work over the summer to do that so that we make sure we're focusing not just on the referrals and notes, but actually what that's leading to, including things like increased attendance and what impact we're having on graduations and all of those pieces.
A free consultant in Ted Ginn.
Thank you.
All right.
Councilman Schlepper.
Through the chair, just more of a comment, but I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you've done and everything that you have contributed to our young people in this county. The piece that really sticks out to me is the scholarship success components. And when you think about 1,250 seniors from the graduating class this year, that's beyond transformative. I think that's life-saving, and not even in the immediate, but when you think generationally about the impact, not only on those students' lives, but on their children and their grandchildren, right? So when you really think about, you know, just getting an education and what that can mean, not only just for, you know, lifetime wealth, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, right? But I think this work is really at the center of human development in our county, and I think an opportunity for us to move our county forward from an educational perspective. I can't say enough good things about what you're doing. I love the work, I love the program, and I love just about everything about what you're doing. So I'm excited to see this and excited to support it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? No, you've salvaged the program, actually, because we could have all this money sitting in scholarship, but if the students can't get through their education, there's no reason to have scholarships. So, and the model this was based on originally, it just was never going to happen. And so it was a matter of a reduction in force and trying to rotate around the support specialist like I recommended last time. So the program can at least exist and not be dissolved like other Say Yes National. A couple of them are gone. We're able to keep it going. It's not perfect, but there's an opportunity for every student to take advantage of these scholarships. So I appreciate what's happened. Is there, you know, an understanding within the Say Yes Milu, the people getting laid off and their colleagues, what the reason is for the reduction? Are they pointing at anything in particular? Do they understand the 4E issue?
Yeah, and we've talked with the funding challenges and where we are and how we need to be more sustainable in a funding situation with all staff. And unfortunately, and I will be clear, the folks that we that we are no longer going to be with the organization, we want to thank them for their continued service to children. It was not a statement on the work they were doing on children, but about being financially sustainable, and that's what we've talked about.
But do they understand why this is in jeopardy? Because of that 4E money? Do you get in the weeds with that? Or are they blaming the county?
No, I don't think they're blaming any funders at all. I think it's an understanding that there has been this need to fill a gap for a number of years because of things like the Title IV funding, and I think having some more sustainable choices and feeling like that, I don't think anybody's feeling like they were let down by any partner or anything like that. I think they're appreciative of the ability to be able to do their work and feel like it can be a more sustainable process going forward, hopefully.
Well, the county certainly could use some qualified, caring social workers, so we're open for business here. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion. Anything else? We don't need suspension on this, so I'm going to make a motion. This gets referred out of committee to the next full council with a recommendation of passage.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, lastly, we have Invest in Children, 2025-0230.
Resolution number 2025-0230, authorizing an amendment to a master contract with various providers for infant and early childhood mental health services in connection with the Invest in Children program.
Hello.
Hi, good
Hi.
afternoon, everyone. Alyssa Swiatek with Office of Early Childhood and Invest in Children. As always, I first want to thank council and this committee for the opportunity to come before you today and for the support of the work that we do. We were recently in front of you on April 30th of this year to present the revenue generating agreement with the Cuyahoga County Adams Board for funding to support the infant and early childhood mental health, or IECMH program, that our two organizations have long co-funded. We appreciate the Adams Board role in continuing to co-fund this critical programming for young children and families. The amendment before you now is adding the Adams Board funding in the amount of $700,000 and an additional $75,000 in Invest in Children funding to our existing master agreement with the 7 agencies who are currently contracted to provide IECMH services, bringing the total contract value to $1,475,000. With these additional funds, the new target number of Cuyahoga County children served is 769, though we expect to exceed that target this year. IECMH services encompass a continuum of approaches, including the promotion of healthy social and emotional development, the prevention and early intervention of mental health difficulties, and treatment of mental health conditions among very young children in the context of their families, which often focuses on strengthening the relationships between parent or caregiver and child. In the next few months, we're going to conduct a competitive procurement process to identify IECMH providers for a new set of contracts that will begin in January of 2026, and are working with the Adams Board to continue the joint funding partnership for this program. Any questions I'll take?
Okay, thank you. Any questions? So, yeah, I don't think the committee has any issue. We're happy that you're funding childhood mental health services, and we want to be able to support this need that I think we talked last time, that there's still a lot of, unmet needs
Yes.
out there. But, yeah, so do I have a motion to refer this out of committee?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Yes,
Madam Chair, was that for second reading or second reading suspension?
We don't need suspension. It was just second reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to adjourn. Sorry, I got emotional. On the way here, I was listening to a program on family separation and how now they're looking at that as clearly child abuse and just a violation of human rights. And every single moment, it's something, we're getting smacked with something so extreme. It's hard. I didn't think I was feeling it until I started to talk about Mars. That gets me going. Thank you, everybody.